Welcome to the Ride With Us podcast, a podcast dedicated to the Prescott Rodeo Grounds and the world's oldest rodeo. Its history, traditions, storytelling, and all the events happening at the rodeo grounds. I'm your host, Greg Mengarelli. Today I have a very good friend that I get to work with all throughout the year at Prescott Frontier Days. He's a great guy, does a lot of stuff behind the scenes that you would never realize, but all very, very important that he takes care of there at Prescott Frontier Days. So I'd like to welcome in today Mike Alderete. Mike, thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
So what is your official title? I know you do a lot of things at the rodeo. Do you have an official title?
Official title, I am the arena groomsman.
Arena groomsman. So Mike takes care of the arena, you know, for our listeners out there when you're at the rodeo or maybe at other events where we're using the rodeo for a team roping or whatever. Mike is the guy on the tractor taking care of the arena. But there's a lot more to what Mike does around the rodeo grounds, and we'll talk a little bit about that as we get into the show. Before we get too far, though, Mike, I always like to ask people about their family and kind of, I know you're a grandpa.
Yes.
Which is one of the best titles we have, right?
Yep, exactly.
But tell us a little bit about your family. Give us some background.
Well, I'm married to my wife. It's been 30 years now. 30 years I never slept on the couch. I have 3 daughters, and I have 3 grandchildren, 2 grandsons and a granddaughter.
Oh, nice. Yep. Well, grandkids are the best. We should have done that first.
Yeah.
I guess it doesn't work that way. But so give us some background, Mike, about yourself and kind of how did you get where you are now, where you're an expert groomsman? How did that get started?
It got started, I believe it was 2017. I started to work with our current general manager at Prescott Frontier Days, Jim Dewey Brown, back in Socorro, New Mexico, where they built a brand new rodeo arena. That's where I first met Jim. And everybody at that time was telling me, it's a job that you don't want to do, that tractor work in the arena. It's not a job you want to do because the barrel racers are the most difficult. Well, being that I lived with my wife, 3 daughters, my grandmother, my mother, I learned to adapt to women. And when you live with a bunch of women, you learn to listen and pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
So I made that my first focus, was the barrel racers. Now, throughout the years of my daughters being in school sports, it was always the boys first. Well, with me being a girl dad and doing rodeo, the girls come first.
Right.
So that was my focus. And I studied, and I still study currently, different videos through different arenas, what the footing looks like,
Mm-hmm.
How the hoof impacts the ground, and how much dirt gets tossed up. And
Mm-hmm.
I have an eye for that measurement. I mean, it's something you can't explain to somebody and they'll understand you. They won't, you know, because
Right.
I see things that people won't see in general.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's where I started with Jim Dewey Brown.
So Jim Dewey Brown gave you your start there in Socorro, New Mexico. Did you have experience before you started there at Socorro? You must have had some experience.
I had a real slight experience, not so much of doing such as barrel racing and rodeo, just kind of your backyard, some competitions for team roping, which I did back in 2017.
Yes.
But team roping there's not really a whole, technical dressing for that rodeo or team roping. Like rodeo, on the
Right.
other hand, it gets complicated.
Yeah, we'll get into that. So you got your start in Socorro. Then tell us how you got to Prescott Frontier Days. Of course, we all know that Jim Dewey Brown was at Socorro,
Yes.
and now he's here, so that's kind of obvious. But tell us when you came and kind of how that came about.
I got hired on in 2022. The job offered to me was in 2021.
Mhm.
But back in New Mexico, I had already committed to my producers out at that rodeo arena, and I wanted to finish my year out there. And once the season ended in 21, I arrived in Prescott in March of 2022.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yep. And so you take care of the arena, but you also take care of the whole facility. I know people listening drive by the rodeo grounds all the time, and I've had lots of compliments about how the grounds look year round. And so Mike is your guy, if you've been wondering. And I always tell them it's nothing that I did. It's Mike Alderete taking care of the whole facility. But I know your focus is on the arena. Let's talk a little bit about the science of the ground in the arena, because I know that there's a certain composition
Yes.
of the dirt in there, and I know that there's a lot of different specific techniques that you've kind of discovered, and of course was a student of other people.
Yep.
So help our listeners, at least at some basic level, understand two things, kind of how you do what you do, and then why. Because I think the why is probably more important. Why is it important to have the ground in such good shape, for our contestants and our animal contestants?
Well, it's put it like this. It's kind of like running on concrete or asphalt and running in dirt, where dirt is more forgiving and the concrete and asphalt's not.
Mm-hmm.
So as you run on a hard surface, that impacts your knees, your hips, and the same thing for the animals, for the livestock. So, I have to have it sturdy enough, but flexible enough for, especially like barrel racing, for example. You got a horse running into that first barrel at approximately, give or take, 30 miles an hour.
Mm-hmm.
In order for that horse to maneuver around that barrel, you got to have some forgiveness on that turn in that dirt. If not, them feet can come out from under them. Yeah. Now, these ladies pay thousands and thousands of dollars for these animals.
Tens of thousands.
Oh, yes. Hundreds of thousands.
Right, in some cases.
And the same goes for team ropers. And then the stock contractors, such as the rough stock bulls and broncs, well, they need that ground to be flexible for them too. As they buck and turn, them hooves need to turn and plant and stay up on their feet for them to perform as well.
Right. Yeah. No, it's really important, Mike, and people really, I don't think, would ever fully understand the importance of the health and safety of the animals and the contestants, and how the ground can protect them, or how it can be very dangerous. Particularly with barrel racing. We had Sarah Kiekeffer in here, and she sings your praises, of course, because she has a lot of barrel racing that happens throughout the summer. But those turns around those barrels, like you said, it's got to be soft enough the horse can get grip. But if it's too hard, they're going to slide. If it's too loose, they might slide out, right? I mean, it's a real fine balance.
Yep. Yeah, there's a real fine line there. And for them horses to turn, you can tear up a lot of ligaments and stuff on them horses if you don't have the right footing and such.
Yeah. I don't want you to give up your secret sauce, Mike, but there's kind of a balance between clay and sand.
Yeah. You need the sand in there for the flexibility and the clay in there so you have something sturdy, you know. So you have the forgiveness of sand, and then the clay that's mixed into it gives that horse the get-go to pull or push off of off that barrel.
Yeah.
That part of my job is crucial to a lot of these contestants, because if you have somebody that don't know what they're doing and you got animals getting hurt, well, you're putting in conflict of what their next performance is going to be leaving that arena. So I play a big part of their success.
Right. Well, and on the front end of that, Mike, based on their experience of our rodeo and your work in the arena, they decide if they're going to come to our rodeo or not.
Exactly.
In many cases, and if there's a hard pan arena for a barrel racer, or maybe a team roper, or even a tie down roper, they may say, I don't want to go back to that arena because it was hard on my horse.
Right.
He was injured, or I didn't get a good time.
Right.
So you help make sure we get the top contestants at our rodeo because of your work. So I appreciate that. What are some of your challenges, Mike? What do you run into? What are some hardships or difficulties you run into taking care of our arena?
Weather.
Yep.
Rain. That makes it hard.
Right. Yeah. Well, monsoon, as we all know, our listeners, I think, unless you're new to Prescott, you know that 4th of July marks the rain. I think an old rancher said, we have to have a rodeo in order for it to rain because so many times monsoon will hit right during the rodeo, sometimes before the rodeo. I know one year, this was probably one of your first years, Mike. We had a lot of rain right before the rodeo and had to use a helicopter to dry it out. And you worked it as soon as you could to start drying that out. And you kind of have what I've noticed, a little bit of a hole or a wet spot over there on Buck and Shoot 8, 9, 10, somewhere down in there. Yeah. And that's just a drainage issue, I suppose.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
And the best thing to do is, once you see it, get it to drain immediately, because having it sit there and saturate makes trouble.
Something I've noticed you do is you compact the arena. Talk a little bit about what you do to kind of protect from getting too much moisture.
So at the end of each performance, I like to go in there and compact it, which creates a crust. And in the event, if it was to rain, a lot of it would beat off and not so much sit there and saturate, opposed to me leaving the hoof prints of the livestock there where it just cups and holds the water. And it's very, very difficult to prep the arena if it's too wet.
Yeah. So if folks see after a performance, if they wait long enough, and actually, I should back up. So Mike's day is very long during the rodeo.
First one in, last one out.
First one in, last one out. And what I was going to say is traditionally in the past, I know this is changing a little bit in the future, but we would have what's called slack. And we've talked about this on the podcast before. Slack is for those timed events that need to get another run in.
Right.
And they do it after the perf, after everyone leaves, after the bull riding, another rodeo starts and you're there working it. But I was going to say, if folks ever see the arena compacted like that, now they'll understand that Mike's protecting the arena from rain or some other event that might happen to keep it sealed up, essentially between. And you do that after every performance?
Every performance.
Yeah. So what he's doing is by doing that, Mike, is if the rain comes late night, he's protected the arena and the water more or less sheets off, and then you can open it back up without having it be so wet.
Right. Yeah. Basically, it's like a baseball field where they'll run in with the tarps and cover the infield to keep it from getting muddy. It's kind of my perspective of covering the arena by rolling it out.
Yep. Very good. So I want to real quick kind of run through one performance at the world's oldest rodeo to kind of help people understand what you do with particularly the performance itself in the arena. What's kind of the first thing you do leading up? There's a lot of work you do before the perf even starts.
Right. Well, first off, we got to make sure all the gates are swinging. It gives me time to get in there and cut down any dirt in front of the bucking chutes that we need to remove so we can get them gates to swing. Steer chutes as well. Getting all the barrel markers set in place, measured out. In case I happen to lose one or pull one out or whatever, I have my cheat strings hanging on the side of the arena, so please don't cut those off because I need those. And making sure that I have my other tractors readily available with the emergency sled in case any animal gets injured or whatnot. I'm on standby during the duration of that entire performance and slack. I don't just sit there and wait. Basically, I do, but I'm on call. Just on standby. Yeah.
Yeah. And then let's say for the opening ceremonies, we have vehicles in the arena for like first responder night. You'll come back in and clean that up.
Yeah, I'll come back and clean up those tracks. One of them is for the formality of the arena, make sure it looks good. And two, the other importance of it is those vehicles compact, so you'll create some hard spots. So I like to break those down. And then three, you don't want a horse getting hurt. A horse, cattle, or whatever can see that, or even a contestant on theirs see that print of the tires, and the horse will just eventually land up jumping.
Yeah.
Because, oh, what's that? That's never been there. So that's kind of just another safety precaution that we do.
Yeah, no, that's good. And then if you didn't pick it up, Mike was talking about a tractor and a sled for emergencies with animals. If something were to happen where an animal goes down, Mike's on call. He's got a sled that he pulls behind a tractor that we can quickly get that animal picked up, kind of like an ambulance, so to speak, for animals.
Yeah.
To get the care that they need outside the arena with our veterinarians that are on site to take care of the animals. And also it keeps the show moving.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then one of the most important things I think you do is people will notice during barrel racing that after half the contestants run, then you'll go clean things up around the barrels.
Right.
Yeah.
And the purpose for that is because after so many horses that run through those barrels, it tends to get deep. Mm-hmm. So you want to go in there with the tractor and cover those holes. Mm-hmm. I like doing it. Other arenas would go and have people hand rake, but I like doing it with the tractor because the weight of the implement compacts and it makes it a sturdy ground.
Yeah. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. So let's talk a little bit about some of the awards that you've received over the years, starting in Socorro, and then have continued that at Prescott Frontier Days. The WPRA, the Women's Professional Rodeo Association, that sponsors two events. They sponsor the breakaway roping that you'll see at our rodeo this summer, and barrel racing. And Mike received some awards from the WPRA. So Mike, tell us a little bit about that.
So the WPRA is a Women's Pro Rodeo Association, and through the sponsor of Justin Boots, which created the Justin Boots Best Footing Award. And they did that on the reason of getting people to do a better job, getting the arenas ready. And it's kind of an incentive of winning, getting first place. Mm-hmm. I won first place 4 times. I got 1 second place, but I've won 5 times consecutively. Again, the incentive is going to sit with all the professional barrel racers out in Vegas during our luncheon banquet and going upstage and receiving those awards. And I always shoot for those. Yeah, absolutely. So in terms of how that is awarded, is it voted on by the contestants? It's voted on by all the barrel racers. Okay. Yeah, through the turquoise circuit, because the majority of all the rodeos that I do are all turquoise circuit region. I can't imagine a higher compliment than hearing from the barrel racers that you had the best footing. Oh, yes. Right? Yeah. Well, congratulations on that and for continuing to improve your craft. I see you always looking for ways to improve what you're doing, even though you're at the top of the game. So we appreciate what you do for the rodeo in that regard. So let's talk a little bit about some of the rodeos or arenas that you've worked in, because you don't just do Prescott Frontier Days and the world's oldest rodeo. Of course, in a minute, we'll talk about all the activities throughout the year that you take care of at our rodeo grounds. But you've had the opportunity to travel to some other rodeos and take care of other arenas. Yes. And it's still my goal to do other arenas. Mm-hmm. I work at the Prescott Frontier Days, world's oldest rodeo, and I do this 7 days of rodeo, 7 days, 8 rodeos in 7 days. Mm-hmm. Before that, I fly out to Casper, Wyoming, and I do the dirt work for the CNFR up there in Casper for all the college contestants up there. Mm-hmm. Last year, immediately arriving from Casper, I drove from Prescott to Santa Fe, New Mexico to do the pro rodeo out there. Mm-hmm. Wrapped that up, drove straight back to Prescott, and I had a week to get ready for our rodeo. At the end of the year, I do the circuit finals, the turquoise circuit finals, mm-hmm. which was originally hosted in Camp Verde. Yes. And I don't want to really disclose it because I'm not sure if it's official of where it's actually moved yet, but I'll be doing that down there already. They called me earlier this year to do that.
Good.
I just recently got a phone call yesterday, as a matter of fact, and I will be driving out Saturday morning to Artesia, New Mexico to work the pro rodeo out there. Yeah.
And then I think you did an invitational bull riding right here across the street in the indoor arena.
A couple of years ago, I attended the PBR there, and I said, man, what a wonderful facility. And I said, one day I would like to put foot in here and make it be known that I did the dirt work here. Well, it happened. My wish happened. I got to do it for the invitational bull riding last year, and it was quite the experience. That was my second indoor arena that I got to work in. Indoor arenas ain't like outdoor arenas. It's you got to make some adjustments fast.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think you have more challenges with our outdoor arena than you would an indoor, just because of the weather.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was down at Queen Creek, and I know that they've been pretty competitive with their footing. And yet I told you when I came back from watching that rodeo, I'm like, well, they have the advantage of having a roof over it. So there's, they don't have to worry about rain,
right,
like you do during monsoon.
Yeah, my first experiences was a covered arena. The arena was covered, but it was still outdoor. Mm-hmm. And coming to Prescott, knowing what I already knew, how to dress in the arena, well, I am open with no cover. So I had to learn fast, a fast learning experience, how to make those adjustments and how much more moisture I needed opposed to what I used to use. But I got it.
Yeah. Yeah. We didn't talk about that earlier with the science of the ground, but there's a lot of water that you use to prep the arena. And that is, you can really mess that up in a hurry, right? If you put too much water out there, or if there's not enough, then by the time you get later in the perf, you got a lot of dust flying.
Yeah. And the best thing, I'd rather have no dust because you can enjoy the performance a lot better,
right.
And, you put too much water, it not only obstructs of what's going to go on in the arena, but I'm having a hard time dressing it up with my implement, which is clogging it up. And it makes it difficult. So you got to put that just enough. I know when I can see when enough's enough, and it's just you got to pay attention.
Yeah,
and watch the weather because you put too much water and you got humidity going on. It's going to keep it, or you got lots of wind and sun. It's going to dry it up. I mean, there's a whole lot of factors that you got to pay attention to that it makes it important to.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you know what you're doing. I know it comes through just kind of experience and what you've learned over the years. So you mentioned you went to Casper to the College National Finals Rodeo. Tell us about that trip. You mentioned something to me off air before we got on here about that trip.
Well, Casper has been on my bucket list for years, and 6-7 years I've been trying to get in and finally made it in. Everywhere I've went to work, I've driven. I've never flown before.
Yeah, you drive to New Mexico a lot, right?
Yeah,
back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah. So this time it was my first time experiencing a flight. I was nervous.
First time flying.
Yep. And I've heard other people, oh, it's so scary and this and that and the takeoff and it's spooky. And I'm like, all right. I had to kind of do some meditating before I got on this plane, and I get on, and man, it was anything but that. It was exciting. It was fun. The beauty up in the sky. I mean, I enjoyed every bit of it. And once I landed, I said, let's do it again. So now I want to fly everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty convenient, right? Get there a lot faster.
Yeah.
Well, that's good. Yeah. Well, look, there's so much we didn't get to cover here that Mike does at our rodeo. I saw you last week clearing snow for an event we had Thursday night. You're out there in the snow without a cab.
Yeah.
Clearing snow. I know all the water breaks you take care of around the rodeo, which unfortunately is more than we'd like to think about. But taking care of the arena fence and the buck and shoots and all the buildings and it's just Mike is our our go-to guy for really anything related to the facility. Mike's able to take care of it. He's real handy with a welder and auto mechanics, and you kind of have to be good at a lot of different things.
Yeah, especially, working for a rodeo arena, because, mechanical things can go wrong. You need to get up in there and start welding something, weld a gate, weld a latch, or keep your tractor up to par, because you don't want your tractor to break down in the middle of a performance, or exiting with the injured animal and getting it to the vet. You want to make sure everything's on point.
Yep. Yeah. And other than your really nice tractor you use in the arena, we have some aging equipment.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Yeah, it's fair enough. Eventually we'll work through it, and be more modern, get up with the times,
Yep. Well, Mike, I sure appreciate everything you do at the rodeo. You're a huge asset to Prescott Frontier Days.
Thank you.
And I know on behalf of the board and Jim Dewey Brown, we're so grateful to have you taking care of the facility, taking care of the arena. And I know for all the contestants, they're grateful for you as well, which is evident by your 5-time Best Footing Award.
Right.
Congratulations
Thank
on
you.
that. It's a big deal. And I look forward to seeing you every week there at the rodeo grounds. You're always real pleasant, and appreciate working with you. And so thanks for being on the show today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, everybody, that's all we have today with the Ride With Us podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next time.